Life and business can be easy, but us silly humans love getting in our own way. My name is Nico Rapclis, and I've had a wild journey. From releasing traumas that I held on to for decades, to playing college athletics, working with multi-million-dollar brands, having a spiritual awakening, and now coaching incredible humans navigate their inner and outer world. The Just Grow podcast is my outlet to share and help others with life and business. After investing north of $100,000 into my personal and professional development, the Woo plus Do formula is what has served me best. A healthy combination of mindset, energetics, consciousness, spirituality, self-healing, and discovery, matched with a high-level strategy, principles, focus, optimization, and accountability to help you be, do, and have everything that has been placed in your heart. This podcast is for the impact-driven entrepreneur that is finally ready to start thriving internally and externally. Welcome to Just Grow.
I think there's this misnomer with manifestation where people are like, it's turning the visible into invisible. And that's partly true, but really my definition of manifestation is it's the internal shift to the degree that you are no longer emotionally reactionary to the external. Because as long as you're reactionary to the external, you're not completely free. Mm-hmm. But once you embody that, you already know that everything's already created.
Exactly. In Gene Keys, there's a shadow, a gift, and a city. And each of the shadows has a reactive nature and a repressed nature. So it can work in both ways, to where you're either reacting and putting a fire on in your life, or you're repressing and you're just frozen and you're taking no action at all. And so those are different parts of ourselves, those shadow parts. Each shadow has a gift to it and has a city to it. So if you can identify the part of you that's having a reaction, that part has a higher frequency version of itself that's actually the best case scenario part of you to take you forth. So, for example, it would be repression in me when I would be like, oh, maybe this isn't going to work out, right? So then not taking action because, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said what I said, maybe this can't happen. And to be able to see that part and be like, well, what gift does this particular part have to say? And this part might have a deep insight that says, well, maybe there's something about what we said that didn't feel perfectly in alignment, and how can we rewrite that? But it's the same thing with any conversation that we have with each other, which is that if I'm in a negative headspace and I'm trying to get you to understand something from a place of my own pattern, you can't hear what I'm saying. So we have to be able to soften. And from that place of being soft, then we can understand each aspect of ourselves in that way to raise the frequency up. And so now that part says, well, I actually really do like the idea, but I feel like we can tweak X, Y, and Z things. And now that I've tweaked those things, now I feel better. And now I'm in alignment with my timeline. And just listening to that, right, is literally your ticket, your express ticket to getting yourself there without even doing all of that background work. Because it's your own voice. So when you have that and you can hear yourself speaking to you from the future, you bypass essentially all of that other stuff, which I find to be incredible. We don't want to consistently bypass, but there are going to be maybe some moments in your life where you don't have time to do an hour-long therapy session with yourself, but you do have 5 minutes to put the Vision Espresso on. Everyone needs one of these. Really, really, really strong. And the course that you have that goes with it is really cool too. So he guides you through the whole practice to where you're in the course, he's teaching you all about your Vision Espresso, all of his amazing teachings inside of his school. And then from there, there's questions that you answer. And during that practice of answering those questions, I had to really play with that part of myself that was like, I don't know. Right? And so as you're working and molding the clay with that part of yourself, you're finding more clarity. And then you're having the confidence, and Nico's guiding you through it with the videos. And you're like, okay, I can do this. I'm going to speak this with confidence. You're actively practicing the new story. And now you have it bundled into this beautiful manifestation of all of these amazing things that you're about to do. Really cool. Thank you for creating this.
Yeah, thank you. So let's continue on the steps of the woo and the do.
Yeah.
Okay? Because we're basically at step 2 now. And it's interesting because I've been the ultimate test subject, the guinea pig of this woo and do process. And I got really good at setting the vision, right? But the third level, the third step is the surrender. It's the faith, it's the trusting, the letting go. And historically speaking, that's been kind of my Achilles heel and something that I'm continuing to navigate. And so let's dive in a little bit deeper on like what is trust, what is faith, what does letting go mean to you, and how does one continue to step into a more powerful version of themselves, knowing that whatever's meant to be is happening, and knowing that it couldn't have happened any other way.
Well, I think an understanding of quantum physics is important because it actually will happen a million other ways. So the only thing that needs to be different is that one color or one mural on a wall is different for it to be a completely different timeline. So there's a bunch of timelines going on right now. We can simplify those timelines into a 3D, a 4D, and a 5D, meaning the shadow, the gift, and the highest frequency version of the thing, just for simplicity's sake. But there's millions of ways that all of this could go down based on decisions that we make, right? So there's a timeline where I didn't leave Massachusetts to come to LA. And that timeline is still going on in the quantum field. I'm just not focused there.
Yeah.
I'm focused here. So it's about where are you going to choose to be focused? Because Red Rocks is going to happen, right? With you or without you. So where do you want to be focused? And that's a big thing that got me to really understand, like, it's not happening because it's supposed to happen this way. It's happening because I chose to focus on it happening this way. So all I have to do is choose something that I like to focus on better and line up with that particular timeline. So for us to become aware when we're telling the story of what we don't want and essentially kind of like talking shit to ourselves, right? We're practicing the 3D timeline. We're letting the shadow frequency play the game and pitch and do all of the things that you do, right, in your life from a place of whatever the emotion is that you're caught in. So to bust through that emotion, the breath work really helps. Because you got to get out of the mind and into the body sometimes to be able to ground into your soul perspective, because your question is about trust, right? So in order to have trust, we have to let go of the human, because we're not just humans, right? We are souls who have bodies. This is my outfit for this life, and I've come here with a mission. Before I came here, I made the plan, and I knew, right, I was going to meet up with all of you, my soul family, my tribe, and that we were going to meet at the exact right time when we were all ready, right? And so there's contracts that are playing out, and they have certain timelines that they work on. Now, if a contract is not fulfilled, so say someone detours into fear, I detoured into fear after one of those nights telling everyone I was going to do this. And I never showed up again. I went completely off the grid. I'm not here in this timeline, right? So there is a timeline that takes place where I am not here doing this. But I'm not focused there. I'm focused here because this is where I want to be. So understand that if you're focusing on what you do not prefer, like Bashar says, all you need to do is change your focus to something that you do prefer and move forward in that way. And you will be in alignment with that. And then you feel good and you can act on your highest passion. The human is wishing and praying and hoping, hopefully this will go well. The soul knows. If I guide the conversation that I'm having, if I show up in the best way, I will bring to me everything that I need and so much more, and everything will continue to get better and better. The only way that I can mess this up is if I detour into fear and I never come back, which I won't do because my practice is strong. So I trust myself to come back to my practice, and I have an inner knowing because my soul never leaves the place of the 5D. The soul never comes down into the humanness and says, I don't know if I can do it. The soul always holds the frequency, and we have to get up there to meet the soul where the soul is in the 5D. So knowing is a soul thing. Wishing, that had to happen because of X, Y, and Z, or et cetera, is kind of old news.
Mm-hmm.
The new news is that we remember that we're not even from this planet. And we have a higher state of consciousness that we can tap into and access at all times. And all of the timelines will happen. So that can even give you a little peace of mind too, right? If you know that the thing that you want is going to happen regardless of if you're there or not, it kind of makes you feel a little bit better. Oh, well, at least one version of me is going to experience that.
Mm-hmm.
And then now the weight's off. And you're like, and it's going to be me. Let's get it.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I keep hearing, and I'll double down on that, is the focus. It's the attention. I'm sure we've all heard it. Where attention goes, energy flows. Einstein even did a double split. They call it the double slit test, where basically I'll give the condensed version of it. They shot a particle at this wall. It had 2 doors, and then the particle split and went through both doors. Like, that's kind of weird. And then they put a guy focusing on just looking at door number 1, and then they shot the particle again. Particle just goes through door number 1. They switch the guy to door number 2. They shoot the particle again. It shoots and it goes through door number 2. They take the guy away, shoot it again, it goes through both. Mm-hmm. So that is a direct example of where attention goes, energy flows. And so the thing I've been mentioning, I've been making a lot of YouTube videos lately, doing these like whiteboard videos. They're a lot of fun for me. But I've been explaining this, and I usually draw out a lot of metaphors. And it's basically the thing that I continue to say is that wherever you focus on, wherever you put that attention, whether it is the doubt, the fear, the insecurity, the scarcity, it's almost like you're digging a hole. But it can also be the hole of faith, of trust, of surrender, and whichever hole you're digging. And the more you dig into that hole, the harder it is to get out of that hole and jump into the other one.
It's so true. And because we all love penthouses here, right? We're in our penthouse and we're looking out and it feels so good, right? So that's a frequency of love and light. And there's this emotional elevator, similar to the emotional scale, very similar to this example, is that whatever emotion I feel, I'm going to project that into the space that I'm in. So I can have penthouse energy and I can see everyone is loving, everyone is amazing and open to receiving me. Or I can have basement energy, which is like depression, anxiety, shame, and guilt. Mm-hmm. And all I have to do is get into my emotional elevator with my breath, in, out, press the button, go up a higher floor. Now, it's that I am the emotion. I am the frequency of fear, and so I'm projecting fear onto the entire space. It's that I am the emotion of love, and so I'm projecting love onto the entire space. It's the same exact room. It's the same exact setting. It's the only thing that's different is the emotion that I feel. And to your point, focus, we love acronyms. So see in your mind the word focus. It's first, open, consciousness, universal source. Universal source is the collective consciousness. The high frequency of the collective consciousness is all of our soul perspectives. The low frequency of the collective unconscious is all of our shadows. So either we're calibrated to the fear-based society or we're calibrated to the love-based society. And that's all we can see because that's who we are. So it's not that just that we're focused on it, it's that we are becoming what we're looking at in every single moment. We love your YouTube videos. Those are really, really good.
Oh, thank you. And one other thing I'd like to share as well that's been really powerful for me is like, whatever the emotion is that you either react or respond to, it digs the hole deeper. Mm-hmm. So like frustration is a big one. When I get frustrated and I'm like, I fall.
Are you a generator?
Manifester.
Oh, okay. Frustration is the theme for generators, so I figured maybe that's mine.
So that's why it's been imperative for me lately, as I've been stepping into this new version of myself of not reacting. Like I notice this when I'm driving. There'd be little things that pop up where like this person like just kind of cut me off and like I have this little urge to be like, dick. But it's like just holding my energy back from even like entertaining that idea at all. And the more that I step into that and the more I practice that, the more I am embodying that version of myself that doesn't even joke around about that, because any joke has a level of truth. There's a tiny bit of truth in every joke.
And the compassion, right? The compassion for that person who cut you off. Being like, oh, there must be something really crazy that's going on in that person's life, or they're having a really hard day, and I'm gonna send them love and light because I'm not gonna dig my hole as deep as their hole.
Yeah. But you know, it's interesting too, with people that, so here's another thing I'll always say is that like the strongest frequency wins. And so when you're around other people, that's why it's so imperative to get around circles like this, because if you're not intentional about these high vibrational people you're around, you're going to get around people that are low vibrational. And the interesting thing about people that are low vibrational is that they have strong frequencies. Like, and whoever has the stronger frequency the other person's gonna buy into that frequency. And so I noticed this, and here's another reframe that one of my friends told me this is because I was on a flight back from Colorado recently, and somehow I got stuck in the back. I checked in at the last minute, but I was in the back of the plane on Frontier, just to paint the picture a little bit here. Okay, look.
You were in the basement.
We'll just say it was basement energy. We won't give any details, but it was basement energy.
We see it.
And this guy, like, it took a while for us to like land, and then we were on the tarmac for a while, and this guy was getting so upset. And he had already had some conflict with the flight attendant. It was a fiasco. And he was getting so upset, right? And then in my mind, I'm like, okay, he's digging the hole, he's deep in his hole, and the more, if I react to his frustrations, I'm gonna fall into that hole because he has a very strong frequency right now. But a really funny reframe is that anytime you see this, you can just, if this calls to you, you can just imagine that person has to take a shit. So
it's good that their hole is deep. Yeah. Because they need the extra space for that.
And the reason I bring that up, like, it's funny.
And they need Uddiyana Bandha and the breath work. Because then you'll just be regular. You're fine. You don't have to go on the plane. What's up?
And the reason I also wanted to bring this up was because actually I would say the reason that you and I got connected was because I saw a post of yours, and you were, ironically enough, it was about airplanes. A lot of wisdom in airplanes. But one thing you said is that the person that's having the most fun is the person that's winning. And that really spoke to me. And I really feel that that's a key component to trusting, to letting go, to having faith. Because when you're having fun, when you're laughing, when you're enjoying yourself, you're not focused and you're not worried and pressured on the future and the past. So the more that we can step into fun and enjoyment and laughter, even if it is just like quirky little things like that, the more that you actually are calling in that higher version of yourself.
Oh yeah, fun is the most incredible way to retrain your mind and to be funny with yourself and to play with humor, right? Make yourself laugh every once in a while. It's important. It's a strong practice.
And that's the word there, practice. And that leads us to step number 4 of the woo and do. And this gets more into the do, is that it gets to become a practice. Because, you know, you go do EDM yoga one time, that's great, but that's not where the magic is. It's continuing to do it. Listen to the Vision Espresso one time here, that's great, but that's not where the magic is. It's a practice. Trusting and letting go and laughing and having fun and surrendering. That's great if you're doing it one time, but that's not where the magic is. It's a practice. Right. So what I often say is that you want to create systems because systems create consistency. And that's what we teach a lot of our clients. We even build out these basically like spreadsheets that they'll turn red or green depending on how you're staying consistent with your practices. And then I have this vision to like basically turn this into an app and basically like show you an accurate reading of where your frequency is. Yeah. But until you make things a practice, then it's not going to create consistency. And if there's no consistency, there's no magic. Right. So talk to me about like what does that look like for someone that's maybe having some challenges with creating that consistency and creating a practice? How do they start building that momentum so they actually want to start doing things? Because when you're out of momentum and you're not making a practice, it feels like the biggest hurdle it possibly could be. But once you get into a practice and into momentum, that's when things flowing, and then you're actually excited about going and doing EDM breath work. That's when you're excited to listen to stuff like this. That's when you're excited to surround yourself with people. So what does it look like, and how does it feel to really get into that practice?
Yeah. Well, for me, coming from a place of having a really intense childhood, it was hard for me to get out of bed some days. It was hard for me to want to take action on anything. And I realized that if I played into that, not wanting to take action, I fell deeper into that because I was digging the hole of, I can't get out of bed. I can't do this. I'm not ready. I need to rest a little longer, right? Whatever the storyline is. So all you have to do is start to become aware of the story that you're telling, right? You're telling the story that you can't get into the practice. You're telling the story that you're not ready. You're telling the story that it's hard for you. And so we all have these programs in our minds because our entire system is just an algorithm. And so we're liking, commenting, and subscribing to all of these different thought patterns. And so every time I say, I can't get out of bed, I'm liking a post that says, I can't get out of bed, I can't get out of bed, I can't get out of bed. And so my feed is just, you can't get out of bed, you can't get out of bed, instead of my Vision Espresso. And so when I notice that, I don't judge it, because stage one would be that you're in a pattern and you don't even know it. You're telling the story that you don't want, and you're continuing to find more evidence about that. Phase two would be, I'm awake in the pattern. I know that I don't want to feel like I can't get out of bed, but I don't really know how to fix it or what to say. And that's where the virus and security thoughts come in, right? Because it's a program. So the virus says, I can't get out of bed. I'm not ready. The security thought says, hey, you woke up on an in-breath. Look at you waking up on this in-breath. Look at you being aware of your breath. And look at you sitting up, and look at you looking out and narrating the beauty of your life instead of just running the unconscious program that's just on replay because it's on your feed. So if you have really weird habits on Instagram, you're gonna find your For You page is gonna be all of that dumb shit, right? Whatever it is. But then once you start to clean up your vibrational act, the algorithm is gonna give you more inspiring things, show you more people who are doing what you wanna do, and now you're actively in stage three, which is that you're changing the story, which is that even though I don't feel perfectly ready, I'm still ready to be up and to sit up and to look at my space and to understand that I'm a soul in a body and that I don't have to do anything that I don't want to do. And that was big for me. Was like, you know, people want to push whatever works for them on you. And especially in that state, if you're not ready to start a practice, you're going to be like, no, that's not for me. Especially if the person is so deep into their practice that they have been transformed by their practice that you can't even see who the old them was. You know what I mean? So if you saw me when I was in that state, you would see me in a completely different way. And you would be able to maybe resonate with me more if you're in that same energy. But you can't really see all of that background from all of the teachers, right, that you're looking into. All you can do is see where you're at in that moment. And so in that moment, you have to dig deep inside of yourself and be your own best teacher and be your own best healer. And from the place of taking that power back, then you're going to magnetize the right lineage of teacher to you haphazardly, because you are in the energy of I'm seeking, I'm ready to change the pattern. And phase four is when you've completely dissolved the pattern, which means now I jump out of bed. I barely sleep, for that matter, because I'm so excited, because I have so many business babies and projects that I do. I'm completely different than I was before because I've dissolved that pattern. Now, the beauty about the stages of growth is that once you dissolve that pattern, you're going to find another pattern. And you'll start again. Oh, interesting. I'm in this pattern that I didn't know about before. Now I know about it. I'm still in it. Let's study it. Study the pattern, understand the pattern, have grace for the pattern, and choose to find whatever's fun in that moment, even when you feel like you can't get out of bed, right? What would be fun? And then you'll pop out of bed and do whatever's fun, and you just keep doing that. Keep unraveling the karmic DNA.
Beautiful. I like that whole concept about how really manifestation is so similar to the algorithms.
Oh, yeah. It's your source energy optimization. It's literally your SEO.
Yeah.
It's your soul perspective, right? You're either downloading and magnetizing from the uppercase universal source collective consciousness, the highest frequency, where you're tapped into the Wi-Fi and you can receive all of the exciting energy and all of the fun energy, and you're lit up, you're radiant, you have endless energy, right? Like, I can stay up all night and wake up and come here and then go to the club tonight and do it again. And then wake up tomorrow morning and fly home and be excited about doing the work that I have to do when I get home, right? That was not me before yoga at all. So it's a testament to my practice, right? And so if I can do it, you can do it. We are all exactly the same. And because you know that, you're just a program, I'm just a program, we can go into the code and make it better. Yoga is literally a technology that helps you recode what's going on in your subconscious mind.
I think it's really powerful when you talk about how, like, if you can do it, anybody can do it.
Oh,
Because here's the thing that came to me when you said that, is that we are all a reflection of each other, right? So you're a reflection of me. I'm a reflection.
this is
of you.
us.
We're all connected. And coming back to, like, your liking and your commenting on whatever content, who has seen the Princess Bride by chance? Yes. Okay. So you know Farm Boy, right? What does he always say? As you wish. And so I truly believe that that's our subconscious. Right? When you say, I'm not good enough. As you wish. I can do anything. I can throw a stadium event, Scottsdale Stadium.
As you wish.
And even when he's like falling down the hill, as you wish.
Yeah, literally.
Right. And so again, I love the practice of continuing to, whatever you focus on expands. Coming back to that can apply to like every stage of the woo and the do. But a practice that has been really powerful for me is that I have a monthly milestone list. And so I'll put all my wins, all the things that I'm laughing about, conversations I'm having, whether I close the client, like anything. I just keep on putting things in there because that's what I'm training the algorithm on. That's the things I'm clicking on. That's the things I'm sharing. And that's the thing that's driving my algorithm, is because when I keep focusing on that, I'm going to keep getting more of it. And then therefore, again, it's just going to say, as you wish, as you wish, as you wish. And that's like a really strong practice to make it a habit now. Because that's the whole point of a practice. It becomes a habit. Now you're so embodied with waking up and not sleeping, which I do.
I don't
I still have some
recommend-
questions around that.
I don't recommend not sleeping consistently. I actually recommend going with your cycle. So when I'm ovulating, I don't really need to sleep. But at other times of the month, I need more rest. So for women, our clock is actually a lot different than men. You guys run on a 24-hour clock.
Yeah.
So you wake up in the morning and it's morning and you're alive and you're vibing, and then the sun is the highest in the sky. That's when your digestion is actually the highest. That is the same as the month-long scale that women go on, which is our ovulation is when the sun is the highest in the sky. So that is when women have the most energy. So understanding the rhythms of your body, which is a huge part of yoga, because yoga is a lifestyle. It's a philosophy. It's a way of living. So the practice is just part of it. But understanding that one formula for everything, which is related to that same structure of how we grow. You're in the dark. It's nighttime. It's always the darkest before the sun rises. And it's always the coldest because the sun has been gone the longest, right? So you're in a pattern, you don't even know it. Oh, the sun starts to rise. Now you can see it, but you don't really know how to mobilize in it. You move up, the sun moves up. Okay, now I'm gonna burn it off. I'm burning off this negative energy of what I don't need, and I'm calibrating and I'm getting into the good energy. And then I'm moving in, and now I have falling action where I'm dissolving the pattern. And then I'm going to wake up to a new pattern. And so women run on that monthly cycle. So we actually run on both. We have the day cycle and we have the monthly cycle, whereas men just run on the one, which is so nice for you guys because the system is really built for that. But the beautiful thing in women for entrepreneurship is that we can actually schedule everything that we do based on our month, right? which is, it increases our productivity. So knowing yourself and knowing what you need, but the difference is even on the days when my hormones would tell me I need to sleep, I can still wake up and be energized and excited regardless, right? So I prioritize sleep. I don't want anyone to think that I don't.
I was questioning there for a second. I was like,
it's
wow.
very important. Sleep is important.
Yeah, I've attempted those feats of not sleeping. It usually doesn't work well.
You don't need it.
No. Well, coming into entrepreneurship, and this is where like the fifth leg of the woo and the do, and it is really closes this all out, is relationships, is people. And there's a few reasons on why this is so important, especially with entrepreneurship, but even if not, obviously, like what we talked about, is the people you surround yourself, you start adapting to that frequency of the room, right? And so Andrea asked earlier, how did we meet? And we met on Instagram, right?
Algorithm. What's up?
Algorithm. So let's talk more about that, because again, like, who here's, just so I know, who's entrepreneurs here? Okay.
The whole squad.
Okay. When you're an entrepreneur and you have a business and you don't have lead flow, how do you feel? New people coming in the door.
Excited.
I need to get more.
But in terms of like actually growing a business, it's the lifeblood of the business, right? So from a business standpoint, lead flow is everything.
Right, but if there's empty space, it means it's ready to be filled. So for me, if I see empty space, say I lose a client, right? I'm actually excited because there's a client that's a better vibrational match to me who maybe is going to be able to invest in me more than the last one. So I see that as an opportunity. Out, in, out, in. I don't care. I'm in alignment. That's what you mean. Yeah. But I see what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing, because the thing that you and I both have done quite well is content and utilizing social media for good, because if not, we wouldn't be here. None of us would be here. So let's talk about content. Let's talk about relationship building. Let's talk about networking. Let's talk about attracting in relationships, nurturing those relationships, and having an equal give and take with relationships, because that's when it becomes symbiotic. That's when it becomes beneficial for everyone involved. Never a lose-lose, never a win-lose, but ultimately a win-win for everyone involved in the relationship.
Absolutely. Community is everything. It's the only way that we're going to be able to get things done at this time. It's not the time of one person. It's the time of everyone coming together and creating. And that's such a huge deal, right? Because it means I don't have to do it by myself, right? I get to have these experiences with all of my best friends, my soul family. It's incredible to know that because we are so connected online, that we can actively find the people who are vibrational matches to us, even if they're not in close proximity. Whereas previously, before we were using social media the way that we are now, you had your neighborhood, but that neighborhood was pretty spread out and maybe everybody had a different focus, right? But now we can kind of be these hubs in the communities where you're here, I'm in LA, people are where they are, but we can still alchemize together the same way that the mycelium network works, right?
Yeah.
It's literally the mycelium network of universal source energy being able to come together, being online. And I work with entrepreneurs all the time, and a big fear-based block that they tend to have is that they don't like doing social media. I don't like social media. I don't want to post. I feel like it's a waste of my time. It takes me so long. And I say, okay, listen to that part of yourself, right? Listen to the story that you're telling. I want you to take out your journal. One side you're doing virus thoughts, one side you're doing security thoughts, right? So the virus thought is, I don't want to spend time learning how to do this. It's a big learning curve, it's draining, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. On the other side, you're going to write about the community, right? Because the community is the high frequency version of that. And so to be able to tap in and say, actually, this is my best case scenario. And I love connecting with these people, right? This is an opportunity for me. So it just depends on the story that you're telling. You can use it for good and have really amazing experiences because of it, or you can choose not to use it and continue to be in a pattern and not even know it.
It's all how you look at it, the story you're telling yourself. And something that came from me as you were explaining that is like, think about how most people look at going to the gym, especially when they're not in momentum and they're not excited about going to the gym. They're like, I don't want to go to the gym. But let's look at it from a different lens. How do most people feel when they just completed a workout, they just finished, they're sweating, they're feeling good, they're walking out? Is anyone ever like, shouldn't have done that? Right? So when we can reframe the story and and again, coming back to changing where our focus and attention is, we can focus on what that action actually does for us, or what the story at the end. That's when the narrative starts shifting and changing.
Or even just the appreciation in the moment for, I have a healthy body that if I wanted to go to the gym, it could, right? And just sit in that for like 2 weeks. If I wanted to go to the gym, I could. I have healthy legs. I have a healthy body. Not really feeling mobilized to get there yet, but my body is really healthy. And it could be even healthier. What would it feel like to have an even healthier body than I have now? Just like playing with it in your mind. Let yourself hang out in that space. Don't judge yourself. Oh, I can't go to the gym. I can't get out of bed. I can't do this. I can't do that. Because now you're just liking, commenting, and subscribing to the pattern.
Yeah.
Whereas if you actively are just like, I'd go to the gym if I wanted to, then you're like, oh, pressure's off. And then you can mobilize.
Really. Well, I think this would be a good time to just continue to open up the conversation to you guys as well. What's speaking to you guys? What questions do you have? Any shares? Any downloads?
I feel like there's been. I really love the way that you articulate yourself and the analogies that you use. The wave in the other room I thought was beautiful, with like the pull back to build momentum for another wave and stuff, and a lot of the examples that you used. I'm curious as to both of your own personal experiences right now, because you guys are both tapped in. Like, what cycles have you guys brought awareness to recently that you're working through currently?
That's a really good question.
Well, I feel like I shared a little bit earlier.
I can start if you want.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So for me, I grew up in a very intense situation, and now my life is pretty beautiful. Like, we already live in the penthouse. We overlook all of the boats, and it's amazing. It's so beautiful. I have everything I could ever want and more. And there are still moments when the sun sets and I panic, because whenever the sun would set, my parents would start fighting when I was younger. And so I still have a little bit of that fear inside of me that there might be a fight. And it was always that I would be involved trying to be the peacemaker of what was going on, but no one would listen to me. And so that part of me that I've been working with is constantly saying, I feel like no one's listening to me, because I'm telling them to stop fighting and they would never stop. And there's nothing I can do to stop it. And there's nothing I can do, is the pattern. But then I witness that and I realize that, and I sit deeper into that, and it really helps when I bring voice to it and I tell Matt, my husband, hey, I'm feeling this vibrational discomfort. And I would find myself saying, hey, is everything going to be okay? All the time. Hey, is everything going to be okay? And he's like, are you fucking out of your mind? Look at our life. Like, this guy, he's like, you don't have to do anything. Like, what are you afraid of, right? And that just helps me to come back into the embodiment. And the reason I found this practice and have been doing this for as long as I have been is because I needed it. If I didn't find this practice, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
So to still be on this ever evolving, always expanding journey and to still have that baby Christina that I'm working with is such an honor and a pleasure, because every single time I have that experience with her, I find more of her gift. And her gift is that she actually understands the workings of not only her own mind, but everybody else's. And so that's why I love what I do so much, because I'm constantly being presented with people's information about their lives, about relationship troubles that they're having. And I can actively go in, and baby Christina, who wanted to tell her parents, well, you're in a pattern and you don't even know it, and you're projecting this onto each other, right? Can now go in and do that for other people who have sought out my help and who are rewarding me with the opportunity to be able to help them. And to see that growth in those people and to see that gift that evolved from baby Christina, who felt like no one could listen, just always is now activating more and more evidence that I can speak up and people do want to hear what I have to say.
I think that's beautiful when it comes to like the IFS stuff and internal family systems, especially with your reflection of the coach. Like you're essentially able to give little Christina the platform to speak and be heard that she never had growing up.
Yeah.
Right, and then for her gifts to be revealed. So that's beautiful. Curious, how old is Christina that has that gift?
Oh, I've had this gift forever. The gift has never been not there. So there's always the shadow, the gift, and the city, right? And so they're all there at all times. It's just that the gift can be suppressed. And so the gift was in the repressed nature for quite a while. But I do remember starting to pull that out as I became more confident dancing on stage. And then with my platform of Food Allergy ABCs, which was my first nonprofit that I started when I was very young, because I have severe life-threatening food allergies, and I was one of the first ones to come out with food allergies, and no one really knew how to manage them. So I remember around like 11, when I first started speaking on stage, really understanding, oh, actually, regardless of what happens tonight with my parents, I have something really powerful to say that's going to help a lot of people. And so 11 onward. That's a great question. Thank you so much. I didn't think about that one before.
The thing that keeps coming to me is this journey of embodiment. And I notice within myself that I've become a lot more embodied as I've progressed along my journey. But what I notice is that when I get around other people that are more embodied and have more emotional conviction, it's almost like I feel like those doubts start to creep in. I'm like, oh, that person's so much more embodied. And then I'm not as embodied, and then I'm looking at the external. I'm like, I'm questioning why am I not as embodied? And so that's the thing that I would say that's the journey that I'm really on, is just continuing to step into fully 100% authentically knowing who I am and standing for that and not deviating from that path at all. And so one of the things, I've actually had this conversation recently that really kind of started to open this up quite a bit, and it comes down to self-trust, right? And I think where this all leads a lot for me has been in relationships, intimate relationships. And so I heard a quote, or not necessarily a quote, but someone told me that your intuition will just like show itself one time. It's like holds up the sign and says yes or no, and then puts it down. It doesn't just keep on saying, hey, yes, 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 yes. It's just one time. And so there was a specific example where there was a girl that started engaging with a little bit, and the first time I met her, it was a no. Like there was just something about it that told me no. But
Yes.
and I think that's really the thing. Am I in obedience to that intuition, to God, or am I justifying it for whatever reason? Right? And the more that I can step into and listen to those intuitive signals that are truth, the more that I gain more trust within myself, and then therefore I am more emotionally embodied, and therefore I have that higher conviction within myself. My frequency is higher, and then I'm not supplicating to other people that have a stronger frequency than me.
But also the illusion that someone else could be more embodied than you.
It's my perception.
So it's an illusion, right? So to be able to, in that moment, be like, oh, it's actually just an illusion. Actually, it's a virus thought. So from the virus thought of someone is more embodied than me to the security thought of what did you say earlier about we're all just reflecting each other. Yeah. We are one. Really, really cool.
Yeah.
That's a deep one. I'm working on that too. Because as you rise, right, you start calibrating to higher frequency people. And then you have to feel what it feels like to be on that shelf. So there's different levels, right? Mm-hmm. And so as you raise up on a level, maybe you're the new kid on the new level, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, interesting, like how do I act? And what I've found, because I like to think of every conversation that I have as a practice run for the next conversation that I'm gonna have, right?
Yeah.
So like I tell you this story and I see what you like about what I said,
Yeah.
and then I just make sure that I pull those parts and I say those things in that way, and I'll test new stories and I'll test new analogies. And I'm always watching, what do they think about this? Is this hitting for them? And then in the back of my mind, I'm saying, okay, and then next time I'm gonna make sure that I use everything that was hitting, right?
Yeah.
So instead of being like, oh, I should have said this differently. I can't believe I said that. What are they thinking? They're probably still thinking about me saying that. I just say, okay, noted. And then what hit? And really embody like your list of things that you're embodying and you're liking and you're commenting and you're subscribing to that list. Mm-hmm. Subscribe to the shit that hits. Yeah. And just keep refining your vocabulary. And every conversation you have, you become a better conversationalist.
I love that you say that. And that adheres so much to the relationship building. Right? You said it exactly how I've been perceiving it for years. Whenever I'm having conversations with people, I'm noticing a lot, and I'm very empathetic, and I can read people and understand people. And so like every conversation I'm having I look at it kind of like a test. And then therefore now I know, like if I say something that I see them lean in and they're like, I can just feel it. I'm like, oh, boom.
Check mark.
I could create some content around that.
Yeah.
Because now that's speaking to people, and now I can broadcast to a bigger audience.
Everything is content.
Yeah. And one other thing too is, I think that keeps you in such a great state, because I would even do this. I don't do it as much anymore on like the micro in terms of like conversations, but what I would do when I wanted to, increase my charisma and my influence and persuasion and just being able to connect with people and have great conversations. After a night out of going out and just having a bunch of conversations, I would kind of, go back and be like, what did I do well in this conversation? What can I improve upon? Mm-hmm. Right. And that kept me out of like, oh, this night went well or this night didn't go well.
Right.
Right. It just kept me focused on like, oh, what did I improve? What can I get better? What did I not do so well? What can I get better at? Mm-hmm. And I think they talk about that in the military. I think it's called the After Action Review, AAR. And so we do that every week in our coaching program. We have a weekly reflection sheet that we're constantly looking at. What went well this week? What can we improve upon? And then just keep on engaging it moving forward.
Yeah. Ever evolving, always expanding. That's the nature of what being any type of a being is. All sentient beings. All we are here to do is to evolve. So we're evolving our consciousness. And when we release the humanness, we can just download everything that's needed in the moment. What is medicine for the moment? So it's essentially that you're downloading energy, you're speaking it out, you're seeing what hits. And from there, there's then that moment where you dissolve it and let it go completely, and then allow it to flow through you. Because then you're going to be able to just channel through whatever the particular group needs. So, like you were saying before, that surrender is really key too. So to be empowered to know where you're going and why you're going there, to execute the plan, and then to allow the plan and the people to come in and unfold. Beautiful.
Amazing. Any other questions?
So I'm curious about, like Nico, you mentioned you sat like your wins of the month and everything, right? And recently I've been like in this season of like reviewing cycles of like the biggest times that I hit new levels of, you know, my vision. And what I've found is, and I've also like looked into like Kobe Bryant and like shadow work and stuff, right? And like you like going to the place and finding those frustrations and angers to like really propel you to those new levels of success. So I was just like wondering like your thoughts on that, and like really like what are your thoughts on that? Like, do you just seek the new vision and the light, or do you also like find those little things? Like for instance, Kobe was like, he had a newspaper article where they accused him of raping someone, right? And he used it as like power every day to like really create that alter ego of the Mamba and like really like crush his goals, you know what I mean? So what are your thoughts on that? Hitting a new level of vision.
It's a dance, in my opinion, because I mean, you look at some of these ultra high performers, like the Kobe's, like the Michael Jordans, and if you've read the book Relentless by Tim Grover, he was Kobe's and Michael Jordan's coach. Those dudes were not happy dudes.
They're constantly seeking frustration in order to power them forward, right?
Yeah. So I think it's important to to one, get clear on what truly is the vision. That's why that's one of the most important things, right? If the vision is to be the greatest, then awesome. We're going to optimize for that and what that exactly means. But if your vision is to be whole and complete and have a lot of fulfillment and passion about what you do and care about other people, I mean, again, I just think about those guys, and I probably don't look to be like those guys that much. I mean, you hear about how their teammates were not huge fans of them. They didn't enjoy being around them. Sure, they had all these championships, but there's always a cost. So I think it's just, you got to figure out what you're optimizing for. And, you know, I would say if I was, because I mean, I was even having this conversation with a client this past week, and we started gearing a little bit more towards just like, all right, like keep going the vision. And she's like, well, I just feel like there's like these deep wounds that I'm still haven't like really healed. And so that's why I'll come back. And it's, again, you can always come back to the 5 steps of the woo and the do. And the first step is those subconscious blocks, the gunk that's holding you down. A metaphor I always like to explain with is a hot air balloon, right? The goal of a hot air balloon is to go up. There's a couple ways to do that, right? You can either put more hot air, that's the do, that's the go, set the vision, keep on going, more of the do side of things. But what happens when you start realizing that the hot air balloon is actually tethered to the ground and it's got all these sandbags holding it down? Wouldn't it be more efficient just to cut the ties and all of a sudden you just lift?
With breath work?
Yeah. So I think it's a balance, and I think it's about finding what works for you. And that's one of the biggest things that I've realized, is that there's no one path.
Yeah.
It's figure out what's important to you, who you are, and where you want to go, and optimize for that. And you can, yes, learn from people, but I truly believe it's the most important thing is learning from yourself. So that's kind of my take on it. Do you have something to add?
Well, it's true that you are your own best teacher. You are your own best healer. And when it comes to something that we all do in an involuntary way, just like all of our systems of our body They're just happening. Like, as sure as our hair is going to grow, we're sure our heart is going to beat, we're sure we're going to digest our food, we're sure that our body is just going to breathe for us. In a situation where we have something that shows up that's not necessarily the best case scenario for us for that particular situation, take the guys out of it, take all of their championships out of it. But if something came up in my life that was making me feel rocky or shaky, or I was being accused of something, I would ground deeper into my practice.
Yeah.
I would ground deeper into my breath, and I would try and figure out, why did I manifest this thing into my life? And how can I tighten up whatever my structure is to make sure that this doesn't happen again? And so I think using whatever that was as an opportunity to just make yourself better is always a good idea. And the best way that you can do that, to realign to that, is to tap into the body system, because without the body, nothing can really get done. And so when something like that comes at you, you feel threatened and you feel like you could lose everything. And from that place, if you're not actively breathing, what actually happens is we go into anxiety and we start to panic. And so now our involuntary breath that is just like breathing for us, now we're in the parasympathetic nervous system. So now we're in the sympathetic nervous system, we're fighting and we're flighting, and maybe we're fawning. And from that place, the one thing that will bring every single human being back is the breath. So to be able to have that in, out, and then to be able to write it all down, write everything down. Something crazy happened to you, you don't like the way that it feels, write it down, write it down, write it down, and then read it back from your soul perspective. And your soul perspective will be like, that's a non-issue, that's a non-issue. You're out of your mind, and everything's gonna be fine, right?
Yeah.
And so then on the other page, you can now write from your soul to yourself. So just allowing whatever the situation is that comes in to, instead of getting stuck in your body, and now you're holding it as stress and tension, and now your body is unable to open up, to expand, because it's all about expanding your capacity to receive. So anything that's thrown at me is teaching me something so that I can know everything that I need to know to become the person who has everything that I want. Because that's the only thing that's stopping me from being able to receive everything that I want, is my capacity to receive. But every single thing that gets thrown at me, I'm learning from that. And from that thing, now I've expanded my capacity and I'm more of the person who has everything that I want. All just because I realized that I could make everything my best case scenario, and the person who is having the most fun is the one who's winning.
Who else?
So to bounce off of Jonathan's point, which is actually, I've read Grover's book and looked into a lot of the stuff that you're talking to, and I think the shadow work is really important. But it brought up another point, which is, in my mind, one of the most important things is figuring out, not just figuring out, your path, but like where are you orienting towards. And close to your point, like if you look at Kobe and you're like, I want to be Kobe, but then you don't actually want all the things that come with being Kobe, right? Then it's like, well, you're orienting towards something that isn't actually what you want, or really align with your purpose. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Happiness isn't the only thing to orient towards, but for you guys, how do you figure out, or what do you like ground yourself in when you're like, I'm looking at the map and I need a compass. Like, what is that compass?
Nature. I interviewed this guy, his name's Sal Shakir, and he has a business partner named Carlos Reyes. He's one of the more prominent real estate investors in the area. And he said this in passing, but he's like, yeah, Carlos goes up to Sedona once a week for a spiritual day. I was like, well, that's interesting. And I've made it my practice to go to Sedona once a month. It's like a non-negotiable at this point. And I go up there and I just Like, it's my happy place.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I smoke a little weed, sometimes I eat little mushrooms. Give everyone a nice little, hey, how are you, on the path, but like that grounds me, and I come back feeling refreshed and revitalized. I mean, yes, there's the daily practices. One of my biggest things lately is, you know, expose myself to things that inspire me, which, I mean, I look at a sunrise and a sunset, and like that's my go-to. So I usually do that every day. I read the Bible. That's another big one that's coming for me lately. And it's like it's not just reading the Bible, because the Bible for me was very confusing for a long time. And then I learned this thing called the Bible stack. And it's basically like it's understanding what it's speaking to you, what it's saying to you. And I think that, again, that's why it's what I was saying is figuring out what's optimizing, and you're your best teacher ultimately, because I read the Bible and I basically just see what it's saying to me. I read it, and like there's like a passage that I'll read. I read it the other day. I read it like 6 times, and then I'm saying, like, what is it saying to me? And then what is it telling me to do? What is it telling me to start, stop, or sustain? And what's my revelation from it?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really about like essentially creating your own Bible. And it's like, that's my North Compass right now. So it's like, it is the day-to-day practice, of course. That's always going to be something. But yeah, then on the more of a macro, it's like doing something that really grounds me and calms the nervous system. And nature is mine. And drugs.
Love it. Yeah, nature is huge. Well, it's really cool to alter our state of consciousness, right? In a grounded way, right? It has to come from a proper set and setting, and it has to be done with intention. But for me, learning something new, I recently had my first season of learning how to sail over this last summer, which was so powerful because I had never I had been on sailboats before, but I had never actually taken any action to make the sailboat go. And so putting myself in a new situation where I was the neonate, like I had no idea and everybody else knew what they were doing. And usually I'm the one who kind of knows what I'm doing, and everybody come do this breath work, and I'm kind of leading. And to be in a situation where I can actually soften in and allow myself to learn from other people was really, really cool. And you're in nature. So finding something that's new to you that you don't have to be good at, I think is a huge deal.
Yes.
Because then I found myself being better at everything that I'm really good at, because I wasn't thinking about the things that I'm good at as much, because I'm trying to learn a new skill. And as I'm learning this new skill, I'm actually building confidence with myself and my ability to be bad at something and get better at it. So combining nature with learning something new is a beautiful way to ground into the reality of what it means to just be on a planet, getting to explore and getting to try new things. And then everything that you do, right? We fly planes, so we talk about the analogies of the plane all the time. But with the sailboat, it's that you have to raise the sails. There's a mainsail and there's a jib. And without the sails being up, there's nothing that can move the boat, because even if the wind's blowing, there's nothing catching the wind. And so you have to be able to lift the sails for the manifestation. You set the target for the course. You allow the wind, which is your momentum, your excitement, to flow into the sails, and you adjust the sails to where you need them to catch your excitement, right? So if the wind is blowing in a certain way and you have your sails set in a different way, so I'm trying to do something, but my excitement is over here, I'm not getting anything done. So to be able to learn how to move the sails in the sailboat, and Shane actually mentioned when I shared this in a post, his comment was so beautiful because he brought up the fact that you can't pilot the sailboat by yourself. You need someone on every single aspect. You need someone trimming the main. You need someone doing the jib. You need someone on the bow. You need someone driving the boat. You can't do it by yourself. And it's a metaphor for life. We can't do any of this by ourselves. We need each other.
Does that also mean that sometimes there's no ability to go in the direction that you can't raise the sails?
And if you do, you're going to go backwards?
There's always a way to troubleshoot if the sail is not working.
So if there's a headwind, you can still go forward with a sailboat.
Well, then you tack and send and go into the wind. And then you throw up the spinnaker. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The psycho-cybernetics.
Exactly. Tack and then throw up the spinnaker, right? And the spinnaker is like the big kite. Sometimes you get hit in the head. Yeah. Yeah. When Mary was there, I actually got clocked in the noggin. I was
Do
fine.
we have footage of that?
No.
Can we put that on the projector?
Good B-roll. We'll make sure we get it on film next
Yeah,
time.
get that next one.
But with that being said, it's so powerful to be in community, right? Because none of this could be possible without the community. And we have Dana right here, the owner of this space, who, without her, this wouldn't be possible. And such a funny story, because when we were on Zoom, I was like, I have the perfect place. And he was like, okay, whatever. And then I told Dana about this, and she said, I just had my Vision Espresso done by Nico. I was like, what?
Yeah.
It's working. Thank you for having us.
Yes.
I'm in a 3-day, 12-hour leadership training, and you're like, I'm coming, and I'm like, yes, well, then just come.
Send!
Yeah. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I can't even take part, but this is a blessing on all levels.
We've been feeling your energy the whole time.
Thank you, Dana.
Yes!
Well, I mean, we could maybe like one or two if there's any other questions that are popping up. And then we do want to talk about our sponsor for the event.
Yes, absolutely. I think one more question right here.
Yeah, sure. I have a question on the emotional elevator. Yeah. And how we, just by nature of being human, we come into contact with people who might be lowering our vibration, and sometimes we might have like deep karmic connections, whether it's our family or like people who we're like with and we're committed to for a certain amount of time. So I'm wondering how you draw the line of finding compassion to be there and to like stick it out, and when it's time to let go, and then it goes deeper into just us being in the work as like healers, and wanting to raise the vibration of others who are lower. Like how do you find the line between like giving yourself to the people who need it, and when you draw the boundaries and say like, I need space to myself to protect my energy? It's hard. It's something I'm trying to navigate.
Yeah.
It's hard.
It's a dance. It's definitely a dance with that one.
Well, we can go at it from the emotional elevator standpoint. And if you've ever gone up to an elevator, there's a sign that says, if the elevator is not working or in an emergency, take the stairs, right? So maybe you can't just get into the elevator, harness the power of your breath and press a button and go up to a higher frequency. Maybe you need to go into the stairwell for a moment and run up those stairs and run down the stairs and run up the stairs and run down the stairs. And as you're doing that, you're starting to understand the energy of the up and the energy of the down. And that's what's going to happen inside of the relationship, is that you're going to feel like you're running up these stairs to try and get to this higher state of consciousness. And then once you've reached that higher state of consciousness, you're going to feel good. You're going to be able to unravel whatever you need to unravel. And then something will happen, someone will say something, and it won't feel in alignment. And the next thing you know, you're running back down the stairs. Now, the cool thing about this is every single time that you're running up the stairs and down the stairs again, you're building stamina and you're studying. And so there can be no harm and no foul as long as you're awake within the pattern. So the pattern has presented itself. This doesn't feel in alignment. how can I see the other person the way that God sees them? Because everyone's the hero of their own story. And so if I'm feeling like you're not on the same frequency as me and you can't hold the vibration, I'm seeing you not how God sees you, right? Because God is always saying, you're perfect as you are, right? So I'm in my humanness. I can't see you from your highest point of view. And so we'll stay calibrated into an energy that says this is not a vibrational match. And then along the line, the love fades or the friendship fades or whatever it is, because you're both in a pattern and you don't even know it. It's when you both choose to become conscious of the pattern together and you can see each other the way that God sees you, that you can then unravel the karmic DNA. Because you did mention that karmic tie, right? Which is that opportunity in every single moment to release our own ego and stop being like, well, I'm right because of this and I want this to be that way. And try and come from a place of compassion and see what the other person actually means. Because whatever they're saying isn't what they actually mean. It's what their fear body is saying. So if I'm only hearing what the fear body is saying, I'm like, how could you say this, right? How could you think that? How could you want that? Because you're not presenting it properly. But if I know that you're not presenting it properly, I can take a step back, try and soothe the part of the other person that's having a fear-based reaction to something that is the perfect opportunity for both of our healing. And from that place of softening, then the other person can soften too. And once you both soften, you can now see each other the way that God sees you. So it's a matter of continuing to do that, continuing to unravel all of these things. And relationships are the strongest practice and the hardest practice that we literally have. And so to be in a relationship is to be in a divine union with your soul perspective, the other person's soul perspective, and with God. So when Matt and I got married, we were blessed with our, what we call the God braid, which is that I'm part of the braid, Matt is part of the braid, and God is part of the braid. And so the braid is braiding, right? And we're intertwined and wrapped up. So now if I'm freaking out and telling a story of what I don't want, right? We actually have code, which is that he can be like, goose, goose. And I will immediately just be like, oh, okay, I'm out of my mind, right? Sometimes it's not that easy, but it works, right? So you just, like, if he notices I'm in a pattern, if he doesn't come at me and make it worse, I will soften, and vice versa, right? So if we can kind of meet each other where we're at, we can move forward with ease and grace. And to be able to do that is to be able to do that with yourself and with all of the parts of yourself too. So not only is it the relationship with the other person, but it's the relationship with the parts of ourself. And it all feeds into each other.
Goose goose.
Goose goose! What's up? It's gotta be funny, because if it's not funny, it's just like dumb piece of whatever. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
You're deeper into the hole at that point.
Yeah. You're digging. My take, one thing that's just really been speaking, because I resonate with what you're saying, man, and I've had some, beautiful lessons over the last year or so in relationships and knowing when to hold that boundary stronger, because it's not serving me to be around this person or give thought energy to this person, but at the same time being compassionate. Something I've found, even in the last couple of days, I just feel like I'm constantly being humbled by God. Anytime I start thinking I'm hot shit, like he's like, remembers who's in charge. All right, and I think, well, here's something I thought was really profound. We actually did this really interesting, I didn't do it, my good buddy, he went to AI and he kind of compiled all the biggest thought leaders, Jesus, Buddha, Gandhi, all these people, and said, what's the one common trait amongst all these thought leaders? It was compassion. And so I really believe compassion rules all. So one thing that I've learned and started implementing a little bit more lately is that even when I see these people, because some of the tests that I still run into these people, but just because of where we live. And I saw this person recently, and normally, like every time I've seen her, just like slightly in my mind thinking about like giving her an uppercut. Which again, remember that there's a level of truth to every joke, right? And so I want to continue to step away from even those little jokes and those mental beatings. And instead, the last time I saw her, I in my mind, I just said, I love you. And I think the more that I can step into that and just keep the compassion, that's what's really going to help me stay in a place that keeps me in a much better vibrational state. So that's more of like the woo side. And then the do side is that I would say really acknowledge like how you feel after spending time with that person or just being around them or seeing them or thinking about them. And if it's a common reoccurring theme that it just keeps on taking you down, then it's time to like set some strong boundaries and do some type of like, my practice is usually some type of energetic clearing, and then just start distancing yourself. Because I mean, there was even an opportunity for me to go on a camping trip with certain people that were going to be there, and I was just like, no, I don't want to be around that. Even though I have a bunch of other friends that are there, like it's not worth it because I know how I feel around those people. So I think that's my perspective, at least. And I think it's a constant assessment of like, how does it make you feel? And I think it's a constant process of energetically clearing that out until it's fully healed. That's my take.
And going into the quantum physics of it too, which I just got hit with a big download of, all of the timelines are going to happen. So there's going to be a timeline where you chose to stay with the person and your life would look one way. There's going to be a timeline where you chose to do something else, and that's going to look completely different. And so if you can, in your mind, think about what do those timelines look like, and what is your best case scenario, and what do you really want, and what's going to be best for both people, right? Because at the end of the day, everybody wants to be happy and everybody wants to be in their highest alignment. And sometimes if you're mismatched and it's not a good fit, that timeline could be skewed, and there could be a timeline over here that could be higher and faster towards where you're wanting to go. And so to just be aware of all of the timelines that could play out, and to just know that you're making a decision to be on one timeline versus the other timeline. And they will all play out. Where do you want to be focused?
Where is that focus? Where's that attention?
First, open consciousness, universal source.
Beautiful. Great question.
Yeah, really fire question.
Cool. Well, I think the best course of action from here is want to share our sponsor and the message we want to share. I'd like to share a few last things about like the next steps that you can take with the Vision Espresso or anything else that we offer, and then love to just open it up for more connection and however long you guys want to hang out and just chill and kick it.
Amazing. Yeah. So thank you to our sponsor, Impact Health USA. I happen to be the Chief Integration Officer at Impact. Impact stands for Imagine More Peace and Conscious Thinking. From the contrast of knowing what we don't want in terms of healthcare, we found a lot of holes in the system that we would like to fill with love and light and actual healing, because the root cause of whatever all of these problems that we're tending to have is actually really easy to heal. And so because we're focused on healing the collective from a place of empowering people and opening up a bunch of clinics, it's an opportunity for everyone to be served in a way that's not actually going to be milking the system. We're not trying to milk our patients for more and more business. We're actually spreading the impact far and wide and healing the root cause of everything. So what we do is we actually build out the back end of online clinics for doctors and nurses who want to have their own practice. And from there, now you have your own practice, you get to be the face of your company, you get to see the patients you want to see, and we take care of everything else. We have doctors in 50 states, so we're active all across the country, and we have so many, how many clinics do we have now? 60. So from that place, right, of empowering communities to be able to heal themselves, to heal the world, we're actively creating the new earth together. And that's what Impact is all about. So we're really excited to be here. My husband is the medical director, and our friend Josh is the CEO. And we're building and building, and Impact University is coming, which is where we're going to teach the doctors and nurses how they can run their businesses, because they don't really have the training in business. So it's an ever-evolving, always expanding program, and completely aligns with everything that we talked about today. So thank you, Impact.
Yeah, when you first shared that with me, I was like, damn, that's such a great idea, first and foremost, because, you know, I've heard the phrase, you know, it's not healthcare, it's sick care, with which most is going on these days, and it's unfortunate.
Hospital means ill house in German.
Ill house?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the translation. It's
Oh my
used when
gosh.
they get sick.
Yeah. Yeah, was ist das? Das is good. Not good.
Yeah, so it's just continuing to
Harness the power of our minds, understand the pattern, right? Because the body gets sick because the soul realizes that it's not going to live its purpose. That's literally what happens, right? Your soul chose to incarnate into body. The body is not getting out of bed in the morning. And so the soul is like, abort mission, manifest sickness, exit stage left. So we need to tap you into your power, into your purpose, heal the root cause of what's going on, so that you can bring forth your soul's mission into the world, so we can all continue to expedite the evolution of our consciousness and our society together.
And I could even speak to that, a personal story. Recently, my uncle passed, and he'd been challenged with alcoholism for quite some time. And it's just so interesting when you do like get off the path, and then you start like reaching for external alcohol or any vices or anything that really pulls you down, and then it just keeps on taking you down. If you're not diligent about maintaining your health and aligning with the vision of what's meant for you.
Yeah. What are you reaching for to suppress your soul's mission? What are you doing that's holding you back? No one can fix that but you. And it's just the awareness of that. Oh, I'm feeling nervous. I'm going to reach for something. Oh, I had a bad day. I'm going to reach for something. Well, what if you just dropped into your practice? What if you cleared the energy? Now your soul is activated online. You're tapped into the Wi-Fi. Your algorithm is updated. Your SEO, your source energy optimization, is lit, right? And now you can move forward. And now, instead of manifesting all of the things in your body that could potentially take you out, you're now manifesting things in physical form that are actually what you came here to do.
Which the vision, and that's why we started with that, is what we're optimizing for. That helps us actually navigate, right? And so that's why we're so passionate about the Vision Espresso, and how cool that is. So we've been working on that, and then if you guys have interest in getting your own espresso, we've done a little discount for this event. So if you guys want more information about that, just come and chat with me. We'll also send out a link via text message with that discount code. That'll be available for the next 48 hours. And one of the biggest things that we're actually developing an offer to make it more of a subscription model, because I truly believe that it's important to update your vision every 3 months. That's what I've been doing for the last 3 years. I've updated it every quarter. And it activates me more every single time that I do it. So if you guys are interested in that, we also have a free Skool community as well. And we have some of those energetic clearings that I was mentioning inside of the Skool community. So it's cool. We got a little over 700 people in the last 3 months inside of the group. And we go live every single week. We got tons of resources in there. And then we also have a coaching program as well. That really helps you master the woo and do, sets you on a 90-day path of really crushing things out and doing all the things we talked about, and also giving you tools and assets to track your progress and really start cultivating a better understanding of how to use social media. It's just like really combining. So if you're an entrepreneur, we could talk more about that. And something that I actually just started this the past week, I do these woo and do accountability calls. I got on a call with a gal on Wednesday, and we had a great call. And then the next day, she closed a 3K deal. So I'm offering that to everybody. If you want to do a woo and do accountability call, happy to do that as well. So those are kind of my calls to action. But beyond that, I want to say thank you to Christina for her gifts that she got to share in here. Beautiful
EDM
conversation.
yoga. You can go to edmyoga.com. We have a packed portal where you can harness the power of your mind, build your brain, use it every day. They start as like 20-minute sessions. So it's not like you just have to like jump into it and start doing hour-long practices. We start and we build up, and we teach you really deep techniques to clean out the internal organs with the Uddiyana Bandha rotations. And then we dive into even longer classes as the portal goes on. And throughout the class, we're teaching you all of these mindset codes. We're weaving all sorts of new coding technologies into the practice so that every single time you do it, you start to understand yourself more. And we add to that portal every single week. So there's always a new class for you to do. And Mary actually says this, is that she'll go into the portal and she'll do it like she's pulling a card in a card reading, and she'll like pick one and she'll go into that, and it'll be exactly what she needs. So edmyoga.com for our online practice.